Hi Capricorn, this is your forecast for the month of September 2018. This is a general reading for Capricorn Sun, Capricorn Rising, or Capricorn Moon. For a more rounded overview, please watch your rising and moon sign as well. So Capricorn, this first week, you may be overcome with your emotions or overwhelmed in some way. You're trying to sort something out and there is some confusion. Now, if you happen to be creative or you have a vision that you're trying to create, you're dreaming of something, this may be a week where you are very prolific. You're getting some ideas, some inspiration. You're being very creative. You may be a painter, a writer, a musician, and something is coming to you. You're being inspired. In some cases, though, maybe you're getting some psychic impressions. Maybe something is coming to you in your dreams. In some cases, these may be unsettling dreams, disturbing dreams, maybe even nightmares. But there's a lot going on in your mind. It could be a lack of focus. You're having difficulty gaining some mental clarity or making a decision because of the number of options in front of you. And so, again, you may be faced with so many things to choose from that you feel a sense of confusion. For some of you, this may have to do with something simple like, shopping, luxury items, something, of beauty, some kind of good, a painting, a piece of jewelry. So you're trying to make some decisions. And maybe you're longing for something, an actual item, a possession, or a person, a relationship. So you're doing some daydreaming. You are fantasizing, and perhaps there's a difficult choice in front of you, and you're not acting on that. For some of you, you are scattering your energies. You're overwhelmed because you're trying to do, 20 things at one time. And maybe you're a little unorganized or confused about what the most important thing is that you should be tackling. For others of you, you're feeling under the weather. Maybe you're dealing with some kind of illness. For some of you, maybe you're trying to figure out the right medication, or you're experiencing some side effects from your illness or the medication. There could be some grogginess, again, some mental fog that you're dealing with. And for some, there may be issues of addiction, whether that is drug or alcohol. Now, this could be a week where it's easy to make a mistake. You may think you know the right answer or, what choice to make, but it could be based on something questionable. There's some kind of erroneous perception that's leading you in the wrong direction. So this could be a week where you're struggling to see something clearly, and you're having to be more practical, more real about what you're doing, because somewhere along the way, perhaps your judgment is off. Maybe you overestimated or underestimated either yourself or another person, and either that was for good or not. And so you're having to rethink some things and figure out what's best, what's most important. You're looking at your relationships, your connections with others. And you may be on, in a tenuous position where one single thing that gets off track throws everything up in the air. So this is about, really buckling down to determine what the priorities are and shifting your agenda in order to meet that. And if you're capable of doing so, you may end up with more time on your hands. You may be surprised at how enjoyable a situation is. Some of you, your emotions are dominating your rational thought. You are surprised by a situation. It could be some unexpected news. You may be overwhelmed by connecting with someone from your past. Could be an unexpected encounter. So you're taken aback by a situation. In other cases, you simply need to open up to some new possibilities. You may end up having to take on extra responsibility or stand in for somebody because you're having to pick up the slack for somebody who is ill or overwhelmed or, needing some help. And for others of you, you are having to deal with the truth of a situation. It could be that you're creating illusions. You're trying to make people think that everything is okay, that you're fine, circumstances are fine, you got it all under control. And perhaps that's not quite the truth. So you are having to deal with things, and not doing so in a timely manner is going to create a collision of sorts. You're going to end up feeling as if you are a day late and $1 short, when if you had just dealt with the situation realistically on the front end, you wouldn't have to so frenetically try to catch up on the back end. Now, the second week, you have this 9 of Swords. So perhaps you are overwhelmed with some kind of anxiety. It could be that, again, you're feeling under the weather. There's some kind of illness that you're dealing with. Maybe you can't sleep at night. Maybe your worries and concerns are keeping you up at night. Maybe, you're confused by a situation and trying to really sort it out, and you're going over it in your head again and again. For some of you, perhaps this illness is actually going to lead to surgery. Now, that could be you or someone that you're close to. So you may feel a sense of despair or stress about something. Maybe there are issues of pain, or again, some kind of feminine health problem. And it could be serious or more serious than you imagine. But in many cases, you may be imagining the worst. Things may not be what you think they are. You're just overcome by something. So there could be some unfounded fears. So this is definitely a week where you're probably going to have trouble sleeping. There's some kind of doubt to a situation. You may be spending more time alone. It could be that you're dealing with something from the past, some emotional issues. Maybe you're grieving over something, or, you've been dealing with something where maybe there's been some abuse or domination, and maybe you experienced that, and you're finally dealing with the ramifications of what that meant. For some of you, maybe you have some regrets about some of the choices that you've made. So you may need to step back from a situation. You could even be worrying about someone else and the choices that they're making. Maybe you feel like they're not making the best choice, and you have this impulse to try to guide the decision, fight the battle, make their decision for them. And that creates some kind of friction within the relationship. So you may have to step back and let people make the choices that they feel are appropriate for them, whether you agree with them or not. Now, this is a period where you really know what it is that you want to do. Again, last week you had this vision in your mind. So you know where you want to head. And on the other hand, though, there's some kind of fact in connection to that you may not be facing. And your preoccupation with a circumstance may actually be creating the negative consequences. So you may need to, again, take a break, recharge your perspective, because there's something that you're not considering. You may be overwhelmed with the choice and feeling as if you don't know what's best. And you do have more options than you are allowing. Maybe previously you let your emotions get in the way, or perhaps your pride prevented you from making a choice, or on principle you weren't going to do something. And so you may have to, again, open yourself to new possibilities. If you're trying to govern the lives of others, you're going to have to consider another alternative, or you're going to stay locked in some kind of anxiety. Maybe there's something you really, really want, and you're so overcome by that desire, and you're not really thinking about the consequence or what it's going to cost you. And again, it becomes an unhealthy preoccupation. So this says step back, walk away just momentarily. Maybe something can't be salvaged just now. And so you're worried about some kind of decision that's being made this week. Now, the third week, you have a major card. This is the Moon card. For some of you, this is a tie to a Cancer or a Pisces person. In focus could be travel or perhaps children or mother figures, important women dealing with the public. It could be something as simple as food. Maybe you're having some gastric issues and you're trying to sort that out. Maybe that is the root of the health issue, or maybe there's something emotional. It's some kind of emotional illness where you're overcome with something, or in some cases, because of a lack of clarity, perhaps there's a mental illness that you are having to grapple with. But a couple of things are going to need to be examined this week, and very closely. And again, if you were closing off to options or possibilities, this says that you have to be brutally honest about where you are right now. You're going to have to see things clearly. Although this is a week that is subject again to illusion. Nothing is quite what it appears to be, and matters are in flux. However, there's likely to be something hidden, but it's also likely to be revealed this week. And so you're going to have to, again, be honest with yourself, with other people. And this could be a week where you're feeling very worried about something. Again, someone's choices, an illness, something that's problematic, and you may find yourself on an emotional roller coaster. You may feel okay one minute and then you feel depressed. You're happy and then you're irritable. You could be suspicious. The things that you don't understand. You feel some anxiety and you don't quite know why. You can't get to the root of that distress. It could be that intuitively you are very connected to somebody close to you, somebody that you care about. You are feeling something and you know that some kind of bad news is headed your way about somebody that you care about. And so this is causing you to feel some emotional illness or stress. You could have an ailment this week that is directly related to your level of stress, some kind of physical upset that you're dealing with. So you could also be very vulnerable this week. Maybe you feel emotionally out of sync with other people. You're just not on the same page. And they may say things and you take it to heart and you feel criticized or violated in some way because you are more emotionally vulnerable. So you are dealing with something deep inside yourself, emotionally or psychologically. There's some urges and instincts that you're focusing on. In the positive, you may have some kind of emotional or psychological breakthrough. It could be that something is revealed, or you're delving through your psyche, or you're sorting out the past, your history with a person, your childhood patterns, influences that you never came to terms with. Again, for others of you, maybe you're simply worried about a creative project. You're trying to figure something out, come up with some ideas, get some inspiration. It would be very easy this week for you not to confront something. You may be more prone to wanting to sleep or escape through drugs or alcohol or whatever form of escapism. You don't want to deal with the situation. And this is a week where you're having to grapple with your fears or uncertainty or your insecurities. They seem to be triggered. Maybe to the point where you become neurotic about something. So you may be dealing with some negative moods or depression this week. And you're also looking at issues where you have been bringing harm to yourself. Self-sabotage, self-defeating habits, self-undoing, poor choices that you made that are coming home to roost. So in the positive, perhaps, there's some light shed on a situation, something that's been causing you some anxiety. The confusion ends and some hidden matters come to light. maybe you had some vague fears and something is solved. So you are creating some beneficial changes through this clear thinking by taking the rose-colored glasses off for yourself. For others of you, there's some anxiety. You're dealing with something negative, something deceitful, treacherous, perhaps somebody manipulating, an underhanded enemy. It could be somebody who has taken you for a ride and you allowed yourself, you actually opened the door and got in the car and drove off with them. They got over on you, and so you're having to deal with not only how they betrayed you, but how you betrayed yourself as well. So this is a week where you're going to have to try to maintain some kind of balance because you are, very charged this week. Your emotional perspective, how you feel about your possessions, your material assets, all of that is in flux and it's subject to change at any moment. Now, for some of you, again, this may tie to travel. Maybe you're going to go on an adventure where you travel. Maybe you're anxious to do that. There's something that you're excited about. You have a vision and you want to execute it. In other situations, maybe, you want to do something creative and you're revved up about that. You're pushing boundaries. You're entering into a new genre of work, a new style, new creativity. You're making some changes. But for others of you, perhaps, there's something emotional. You are pushing emotional boundaries, or those are being triggered by other people. So there's some new perceptions this week. And in some cases, there's a need to wake up. Now, the last week you have air energy. This could be Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, male or female, or just the traits of this page. For some of you, there's a connection to a younger person. But for others of you, this could be trying to find the answers. Now, some of you may feel some anxiety. There could be somebody prying into your affairs, prying into your life, trying to go into places that you don't want them to. Or perhaps, again, you feel emotionally vulnerable to some harsh words, some criticism, some slight. Somebody may be rude or arrogant. You may be involved in some kind of negotiation or arbitration. You're having to try to resolve some kind of dispute. And this is a week where perhaps you're able to step back and be objective, especially if you're playing the role of diplomat or mediator. However, if whatever this is, this conflict, this controversy strikes close to home, that is personal, you're going to find it difficult to be dispassionate about that. You may be defensive. So this is a week where communication, where ideas are important. You may be mentally quick on your feet, or you're in observance mode. You're looking at other people, or you're dealing with people who are just cold and calculating and unconcerned about the feelings of other people. Some of you, maybe you're dealing with emotional issues and you're having a breakthrough because you are a truth speaker this week. You are cutting through the crap and you're telling it like it is. For others of you, this is something creative. You are working out design issues, a product, a creation of some sort. So you may be dealing with something intellectual. Again, it's likely that secrets will be revealed. You may be dealing with something troubling. Could be some rumors, could be some trouble with litigation or a legal situation. Maybe you're dealing with a person who is problematic, somebody who is a gossip or somebody who is lying. So thoughts and feelings connected to mental matters will be important. For some of you, you may be dealing with documents, maybe, some form of paperwork. Maybe you're dealing with something that has to do with health insurance, or, you're having to write a check for something, or you're trying to find some important papers, or you're writing something or creating something. So for others of you, maybe this is surgery that you're dealing with. In some cases, you're worried. Maybe you have to take a test of some sort. Negatively, again, somebody is prying, they're watching, they're investigating, and maybe there's even a betrayal by someone you consider to be close, or maybe you're dealing with somebody who is a rival. So discretion could be very important this week. And again, maybe you're dealing with somebody who's irresponsible and they're affecting your life in a negative way and it's causing you some kind of concern. You may have to make some decisions and you may be dealing with the ramification of decisions that weren't necessarily the best. You may have some anxiety because things are in flux. You're facing a period of waiting for further development. And so, this is a week where you're trying to figure out, and it's important that you set some smaller, realistic goals that are achievable. That's what's going to get you ahead. And also, again, being able to step back from a situation and find something pleasurable or distracting where you can find the answer to something. So for some of you, this is a week where things are in flux. You're meeting somebody new or you're becoming closer to somebody. Maybe you're anxious to have that emotional breakthrough and connect to somebody. But in other cases, there's something disturbing this week. You're moving further apart. You become estranged. And it's probably, based on some words that were spoken between the two of you, or maybe a legal situation of some sort. Now, positively, you're going to get those breakthroughs. You're going to sort through the fog, and you're going to come together to have a meeting of the minds, to get clear on some things, to get some clarification, and maybe getting through something emotional will, be soothed by a sense of humor. Not taking it all quite so seriously, recognizing that perhaps there's some mistaken ideas or some slights that weren't intended. Maybe, the imagination ran away. So you are connecting with somebody, and depending on how you speak to each other, that depends on whether you get closer to one another. But there are definitely secrets this week. Either somebody's speaking a secret or you're trying to figure out a secret. There are issues of discretion. There's something that you're not seeing, or there's something that you're hiding, and it may connect to the past, and it may be important that something comes to the light. Now, if you're moving further apart, you're beginning to look at others or someone close, and you're seeing the lesser side of that person, especially if there's been some deceit, some treachery, or some betrayal. You're noticing these less appealing characteristics, and perhaps something occurs this week where you decide that's it. It's over. Either you just got involved with this person and it's starting off on a bad note, or something has been ongoing and you decide that this is the final straw. Now, because this is a court card, if you don't have strong air in your chart, it's likely that somebody else is making the call in your circumstances. Now, the underlying energy is the Nine of Cups. So this is the wish fulfillment card. Maybe you get your wish, you find the answers, you have some kind of breakthrough, and maybe you end up enjoying yourself. For some of you, you're connecting to somebody of wealth. Maybe they can spoil you. Maybe this is a month where, you're dealing with indulgence. Some of that indulgence may cost you somewhat, physically or emotionally or financially. But you are, focused on what is comfortable, what is gratifying, whether that is physical pleasure, material pleasure. The problem is that you're dealing with the consequences of choices, and perhaps in some cases, there's been the pursuit of pleasure without thought of that consequence. Hopefully, if there have been any difficulties, you get your wish and those difficulties are overcome. You're seeking some satisfaction. You want a victory. And there's going to be situations that play out this month where you feel like it's easy to have your expectations or demands met. There's something you want, you go after it, you get it. Or if you want to withdraw from a situation, no problem. But again, this is about really examining your desires and being truthful about that. There's something that you may really want, or someone or circumstance. And dealing with that truth and the consequences of getting what you want, it may prove to be more challenging. You may have, some cloudy thinking where you think you want something, but then once it's handed to you, now you're seeing the reality of that. Maybe you don't really want that. So this is a month to be mindful of getting your way, because you're likely to get it. People are not going to push back. You're not going to meet with resistance. It's going to be very easy for you to obtain whatever you want. Now, if something is important to you and you're clear about it, then definitely this is a month to go after it. Get that better deal, negotiate, bargain, barter. If you're trying to get a promotion, go into your boss's office and, tell them what you're worth. If you're looking for a better job, start putting your resume out there. This is the time to go after what you want. You're going to be satisfied likely. But in other cases, especially with the moon, and you've got some disturbing cards, some confusion, things not what they appear to be. This could be a month where you're challenged in some way. You are caving into a temptation, and you may be bending the rules. It may be difficult for you to uphold your ethics, and you may get what you want, and then it turns out to be a whole lot less than you expected. Or again, you're working against yourself by going too far. This is a card of excess, extravagance, overindulgence. And so you may be dealing with that. You could be your worst enemy by going too far with something. Maybe you overestimated a person or a situation or even yourself. So this is also about being cocky, arrogant, smug, selfish player. If you've got any of those traits, they may cost you. You may allow your ego to get in the way of your better thinking, your common sense, and then it's likely that your wish is going to be delayed or not what you expected because you weren't seeing something clearly. Now, for many of you, though, there's going to be a breakthrough. You're going to get some sudden inspiration, some insight. It could come back to those options that you hadn't previously considered or entertained. Something that you want is going to take off. Perhaps there's an unexpected visitor or some news that you receive, and you get this breakthrough. But for others of you, there's this impulsiveness that you're fighting. You are, maybe spending too much or drinking too much or eating too much. Something that you're doing. Maybe your desires are unrealistic. Maybe there's an excessive preoccupation with the sensual. So you're having to look at your value system and whether those are superficial. Maybe you end up having some kind of financial loss, or you're deprived in some way, or perhaps there's been an abuse of your body in whatever means. If there's issues of selfishness, there's this total focus on I, me, what I want, self-centeredness, a lack of charity, or you may be involved in relationships that are superficial. So, this is, again, a month to think of what your values are, what you truly desire, and what it's going to cost you. Now, it's going to be an emotionally challenging month for you, where you are trying to deal with, the past, unfinished business, tying up loose ends, dealing with things that maybe you were procrastinating, that you didn't want to see, you didn't want to deal with, your own self-sabotage. And with the moon there's a tendency to want to avoid situations. But the key is vigilance, sticking it out. And there's some kind of dilemma. There's some uncertainty about your choices. Could be you don't have the information, that Page of Swords, you're trying to get the information or the knowledge or the skill or the advice. It could be that, you're not listening to your intuition with the moon card. You're not taking into account the psychic awareness that you have. It could be that you are repressing your emotions. Maybe you are instigating some kind of conflict between other people, or you're in opposition to somebody, or you're fighting yourself. And this is centered around partnerships, your connections with other people, your attachment to circumstances, whether you feel a sense of loyalty and devotion and affection and you want to work things out emotionally, or whether you feel suspicious and anxious and you're ready to cut ties. And you're also dealing with an unstable situation. Now, again, it could be because somebody's being unrealistic, or because you're in the midst of a situation where things are still being worked out. But there is some apathy, some inaction. Maybe somebody's procrastinating. Maybe, there's a lack of motivation, a lack of passion. For others of you, maybe you're overwhelmed with an illness and there's a lack of energy to see something through. This is a period where you got a lot of nines. This is the end of a cycle. You're trying to close out a lot of unfinished business, and you may be surrounded either by friends or by adversaries. Now, in the first half of the month, you may be cutting through some clouded and emotional issues. You're trying to make sense of how you feel and being okay with that. Maybe you're going against the grain. You're finally coming to terms with your own truth. Maybe others are not accepting that, but you're having to come to terms with how you feel about you so that you can be good with you. For some of you, maybe you're getting involved in therapy or counseling, or you're simply talking some things through so that you can clear the air. Again, you're trying to make sense of the past. And it could be that, there's a lot of projection taking place in circumstances, and people may be pushing their emotional baggage onto you and trying to make you own their stuff. Maybe, you're having to be unemotional. Maybe you're the voice of reason in the room. Maybe you have the ability to think in cold, hard terms while everybody else is falling apart and overcome with grief and letting that overpower them in their decisions. In other cases, there's something going on romantically. Maybe somebody's trying to keep two lovers apart. Now, by the end of the month, though, you may be losing control. You may be giving over to the emotional. Maybe you're dealing with some kind of fog or confusion. There's still some clarity, but you're right on the edge, right on the precipice, and you're in danger of being overtaken by your emotions if you allow them to get a foothold. Again, maybe somebody in your circle is overcome with emotion. They're losing clarity, or they're acting on their emotions. This is also a very psychic month. You could be getting some visions, or something could come to you in your dreams, but there could also be some confusion and somebody not wanting to face the harshness of reality. All right, Capricorn, I hope you enjoyed this reading. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course you can join me over on Instagram and Patreon for extra perks, on my blog for a daily post. And you can always book a personal reading at thealchemistastrologer.com.